kill that Doinb was able to pick up earlier on in the split. Absolutely turned around from anywhere, but it looks like they might be going for a little bit of priority on the Aphelios. So, Ender, they're picking up the AD carry nice and early.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Lwx loves the Aphelios, but I do feel like that's maybe a bit of a misstep. I think the Lee Sin is a super high priority for really anyone. The mid laners can play it. Jiejie just put on an insane performance. Tian, you know his Lee Sin is going to be absolutely sick. So I love that EDG have responded by taking away the Thresh. Now Crisp may be looking towards the Braum again. That's a duo that he's liked to go back towards in the past. And the Lee Sin, of course, is going to get locked in because Jiejie looked insane on that in game one.
Yeah, the momentum you pick up from that pick. Lee Sin going to be basically copy pasta. Nothing you can do about that one. See if Jiejie can have another pop-off performance. But this time around, without the amount of jungle bans that EDG were able to throw into it from game one, the Xin Zhao will follow through, Dom. And this feels like a little bit of a better matchup for Tian, should he be able to keep it relatively even.
Yeah, and they ended up picking jungle here 1, 2, 3 to match the Lee Sin, and you know, this allows you to actually be more flexible. And Xin is obviously better into a wider variety of picks than the Olaf here. It's interesting though that TF is actually making it to third pick here for EDG, so it's on the table if Scout wants it.
Yeah, Scout can definitely go for that one too, because I mean, basically what FPX are saying is they have both solo laners going to be still available, so they can get one counter pick for one of them. It is going to be a Jinx answer into the Aphelios, and I actually love this, especially when you have a Thresh next to you. Jinx has that provided safety, and also Jinx, one of those champs with just insane range with the rockets. That's how you can beat an Aphelios, both for some wave control in lane, but especially the later you get on into team fights, you can outrange that Aphelios. You have a ton of damage. The only issue for a Jinx is that you're facing against a Zhao, right? So his ultimate can, of course, dodge away from a lot of those longer range abilities. The Braum shield can be a little bit annoying too, but overall, I really like this coming through for Viper to carry in the 5v5s.
And we can already see the mid lane bans coming thin, thick and fast. You got the Twisted Fate, the LeBlanc, the Silas, so many things being thrown out here. We said that FPX, and particularly Doinb, has a champion Ocean, but this is starting to pinch the pool just a little bit, Dom.
Yeah, it's definitely pinching the pool, but the thing is, EDG can save a counter pick to 5 for Scout. So EDG here, they could opt for a 4 pick of something like a Gnar, any of the stable top laners. I mean, if you're talking about a weak side top laner, Flandre plays them all. So if they pick top here on 4, that means that their 5th pick will be up for a counter, which will definitely limit the amount of things that Doinb can be picked. But the Ryze is actually being hovered right now. It looks like they don't care what they're playing into, and we'll have to see if Doinb does the same counter that he did in the previous series, which was Orianna.
Yeah, I do really like the Ryze now, and probably expecting Flandre to go much more heavy on the weak side, maybe a tank or something. The set been something that he's liked to go for into the past. Can be, I suppose, serviceable up against the Gnar. So I do like this a lot, what EDG have put together. This is going to be a game that is much more about team fighting around big objectives. The Ryze going into a side lane, of course, can be hugely influential as well. And it will be a return to Doinb's Orianna here. Doinb on the Ori next to a Gnar can have that big team fight presence as well.
I'm looking at FPX and I see front to back team fight. I'm seeing massive R ultimate, the shockwave. You've got a nice safety net there with the Braum for the Aphelios, and you have ways of getting onto the backside. But the Lucian is going into Flandre's hands again. Dom, looking at these two compositions, who are you feeling good about this?
Well, I think not in terms of just like a pure winning draft. I think that EDG has a draft that's good for them. I mean, when you're playing into a player like Doinb, if you take the playmaking potential out of his hands and you throw it onto other people to actually carry the game, I think that's probably the best spot you can be in versus FPX. So when Doinb's on Orianna, he's still proficient at the pick, but he's not able to take over the game so early the way he does.
Until today, and so far professionally, he's got a 100% win rate.
Yeah, and it feels like he's going to have another good time here, at least in my opinion. I love what EDG have drafted here. You have so much range, which makes it really difficult for this Aphelios to be enabled. Even when you look at the Gnar as well, it feels like this Gnar Orianna combo is going to have a really difficult time hitting crucial members like the Jinx, like the Lucian in the backline. And hell, even if you look at the side lanes, it feels like it's EDG favored as well.
I do feel like for the side of FPX, so right, I mean, they do have quite a bit of range to play with against pretty much everyone besides Viper. So we're going to be looking at Viper to pop off for the side of EDG from you know, the early pressure that both Scout and Jiejie can get. But if it can go later on, something like a Shockwave or even LWX can zone off members like Scout and Flandre. So the tools are there.
I mean, when it comes to EDG's late game, right, Hyper Carry Viper has been the story since he joined the organization. But looking at these early starts, once again, we see both junglers starting on the bottom side of the map, pathing up towards the top side.
Yeah, especially when you're looking like EDG, right? You want Jiejie to be able to facilitate Flandre on that push that he should have in top side, try and allow him to have those resources that we've been talking about. EDG putting more of those up towards that top side and allowing Flandre to play these cool picks like the Lucians, the Jieies that we've seen him go towards more and more often.
And when we're talking about top side, right, it still does start off with mid jungle, in my opinion. You have the CC lockdown coming out from Scout to set up for the burst from Jiejie. The thing surprising to me is the fact that Doinb did opt into the summon Airy. Orianna, of course, you do have two different choices. Could go the Airy, can go the phase rush. But when the enemy side has very clear mid jungle setup for ganks, I wouldn't expect him to go for such a lane dominant rune where for Doinb he wants to 1v1. He wants isolated, just continuously whittling down and poking down Scout. But that's not what EDG's draft sets up for.
Certainly not. And I feel like the Thresh as well was kind of a big takeaway from what FPX were wanting to draft, right? When you look in that Aphelios, the Aphelios Thresh is always that combo. We do have an invade going on though. Jiejie starting off relatively aggressive, not pathing up towards that top side, instead going for these chickens.
I would just come back to your Thresh point though, it's also set up beautifully for this Jinx pick, right? And I love this. I love that they've gone, right, you know they've gone for Aphelios. Hell, we're going to take that late game scaling champion, but just go with further range, go with more opportunities to play around, and you get that safety coming through from the Thresh as well. It was so well read by EDG, and I think why the desk rightly analyzed, I'm not a big fan of this Aphelios first pick.
Yeah, it's just been right an LWX staple. They've played it 5 out of their 6 playoff games. They almost always draft it early. As Jiejie, you know, being a bit of a trickster, leaving some Raptors there, so no respawn coming out from Tian until he does go and clear those. But going back to the Thresh point real quick, this is something Hysterics pointed out during the season, right, is that historically Meiko was a massive Thresh player, not in recent, but Tian, maybe looking for duel.
Let's hold that thought. It's going to be Jiejie that does get the Scuttle Crab, but maybe answers with his life knocked up, trying to get towards the wall to flash away, but Tian follows it. He wants to avenge the chickens, but Jiejie slides out via the red buff. No smite available, but he'll still get away with his life.
Yeah, massive coming out from Jiejie to be able to escape.
EDG here, Meiko flashes forward, but it's answered by Doinb. Scout TP back in. Nuguri and Tian were here to answer. Flandre will just scare them away. Everything diffuses in the end.
Yeah, a lot of resources again being moved by EDG towards this top side, towards this mid lane. We see that Scuttle Crab contest, and Meiko once more being the first off the bat from that bottom side, but Flandre, buddy.
Yeah, he's going aggressive. He saw Tian on that ward, but he still tries to make the play onto Nuguri. Now there's chaos on the bottom side as well. What is going on in this series? Flandre forced to flash the top lane as well. A little bit disrespectful, honestly, from Flandre.
Yeah, Flandre, like Dagda just said, seeing enemy jungle on that ward, shouldn't have to expend flash in that situation, but even moving... Oh, it's just not ending,
no.
guys!
Flandre is not going to let them recall because he wants this scrap. Scout moves in, Nuguri hops away, and the recall was finished in the end by Tian.
All right, we're going to have to rock, paper, scissors to find out who becomes the other play-by-play, because we're not going to get a chance to talk in this game. But I love that we're getting this action, right? We talked about, look, we wanted to see some aggression towards this top side, especially when Scout's on things like this Ryze. You can go for these early roams if you get that push, and he hasn't even hit level 6 yet. This levels up massively when you get those realm warps, and you can start looking for these big dives when you can push in this lane as Flandre.
You know, Dagda, there's been a ton of action on the top side, but I want to turn the tables back down towards bottom lane, because I really liked what we saw from FPX there. You rightly said Meiko was the one to move first towards mid, which gave FPX the pushback on bot lane. And they know Meiko's going to have to make his way back down to lane to come and support Viper. So they set a bit of a trap, walk into the enemy jungle, and they catch out Viper and Meiko when they're trying to link up and get him back down to lane. So really nice setup from FPX. It's something FPX has done so well all split long, is that you realize when these roam timers come out, there's always a reset point where you need to go back to your starting destination.
And I feel like that was the story of game 1 as well. It was all about who can catch the other team out in rotation, who can find those special picks. One pick I want to highlight in that regard is this Thresh from Meiko, because it's exceptional at denying those picks with the Lantern. I don't have time to talk about Meiko's Thresh though, because Jiejie and Scout want to make a play on the top side. Tian is here. Nuguri knows what's going off surely, but Tian is here with Sonic Wave. Crisp is here. He's roamed on up. It's 3v3 in the top lane right now as Nuguri goes in onto Scout. but with this many numbers, should be both teams backing away.
Just a really nice read from FPX, right? When the enemy Lucian is stacking up 2 waves, when they have the Lee Sin and Ryze in mid who can just very easily move, it's very easy for FPX to anticipate, but Realm Warp,
Trying to get onto Doinb, but the shock wave to deny everything. Doesn't have any mana left in the tank, but he has enough to clear that wave, keep himself safe.
Yeah, I'm curious to see now, like, what is Scout going to do with this time? Because you know you can either shove in, maybe look for a reset yourself, or they can try and make some plays elsewhere. But it looks like, at least with the waves in the position that they are, not going to be able to do too much off that play. But yeah, I think going back to the Meiko, like, Meiko's been massive on this Thresh. We haven't seen him a lot this split, but he's a 79% win rate over 97 games in his career. This is not like it's just completely out of left field.
And it's so wonderfully symmetric as well. 79 out of 97.
I know, it's beautiful.
It's nice to look at. So is this combo from Nuguri as he solo kills Flandre on his signature pick. Saint Gun Bro goes down.
and this is a domination you were hoping to see out from Nuguri. Nuguri maybe not having the hottest split, but has stepped up massively in playoffs so far. We saw in the interviews earlier that Flandre even calls himself, you know, mini Nuguri, Nuguri Jr.
Maybe we know why he's never picked Lucian in competitive before today.
Hey, I mean, he's got one. He's got one under his belt, 50% in 2 belts.
That was uncommon.
But I do, like, want to go back to, like, yes, we've seen Nuguri kind of step up, but he has been a little bit more quiet this bit, like, and I mean this in a kind of a nice way. Like, his CSD at 15 is only 3rd, which is kind of nuts when we were looking at last year, where he's, like, first by a large margin. You look at his goal difference at 15, he's sitting in 5th. Like, he has taken a step back, but the big one is his damage, and it's in moments like this that you get to see why he has nearly 26% of the team's damage.
I also want to highlight that this moment also sets up for more than what we're seeing on our screen. Again, great from Nuguri to recognize and go for this play with Lucian having no flash, but we just saw before that replay that because Nuguri's able to pull 2 members up towards top side, the rest of FPX were actually able to invade EDG's bottom side jungle. So FPX doing a nice job of, again, playing the whole map, not only utilizing solo kill to get that singular advantage.
Nuguri drops a ward on the Herald as well. Remember, Drake is up and it's been untouched for 3 minutes so far, but with Herald on the map, you expect everybody moving up towards that top side.
And you can already see it for Viper and Meiko, right? They shove in that bot lane. They're already starting to get that reset, and they're going to be able to be the ones that move first towards this. It means that Lwx can try and get some alone time on this bot lane turret, but I feel like if you're FPX, you kind of just leave this and try and help your Aphelios take that bot side.
To be fair, though, Crisp is already here, even if Lwx is quite far behind. Lwx actually might just head towards that bottom side, like you're saying. And for FPX, I don't think it'd be a bad call to just look for that play. We do see EDG being the aggressors up the top side.
Oh, Nuguri wants another 1v1 with Flandre, but the culling will deny any such aggression here. Hook out from Meiko. The rest of the team here to support Tian as he tries to make his way into the river, but EDG in complete control.
Yeah, Doinb's really low on mana, though. He's only really got enough for 1 combo, and then he's out of the picture. So when you look, and Scout is completely out as well. So these mid laners not going to be big impacts in this fight.
Here we go. Herald going to be starting off on this one. EDG trying to contest as FPX play towards the top side. Flandre does have the inside track from that top lane, though. The Scout gets a bit of a trunk. Chris down to half of his HP. Eye available as Herald down to about 2,000 HP. They're going to go for the burst here, see who can get the smite. As the fight kicks off, at FPX pushing forward aggressively. Jiejie kicked out, but it's Chris to go down first here. And Tian gets the Eye of the Herald and answers with his life. Realm warp forward here from EDG as they want more off the back of the play. EDG, they take over FPX's early game dominance. They show them what early game looks like.
And I just can't believe that EDG can do this twice in a row. Just such a proactive, such an aggressive early game coming out. I love seeing teams utilize the Realm Warp so aggressively like Scout to finish off these kills.
EDG are coming out swinging. What a performance in this series so far. And we're going to get a replay of it here, right? You can see great hook from Meiko on towards Tian, dragging everyone forward. I mean, Chris, he goes forward not really realizing, hang on, like, you're actually safe as Tian because you've got that Crescent Guard. And I want to point out here, Meiko being a bro, not actually pausing. I think that's a good move when you get left behind with Ryze. And that means that the rest of the team can actually follow up here.
Oh, they already lost the final, Dagda. I mean, did you really have to do that to them?
I do want to say, on the back of that fight, though, is that right? I feel like even looking at what FPX can do, FPX just don't have a ton of damage early on. I do like the damage profile coming out from EDG more. Maybe FPX thought they'd be able to take that one because they were zoning Flandre out from the fight, who is a lot of that burst damage coming out for the side of EDG, but still, I feel like both Orianna and Aphelios just don't offer enough at this point to look for that.
Nuguri does back away in time. He saw that EDG were missing from the mid lane, and the second Scout is missing. You've got to respect it. Get out of there. Tian, though, managed to get a smite onto the Scuttle Crab. It was a TP from Doinb as well, just to make sure his jungler was safe on this aggressive play. But here we go, Flandre over the wall as well. Tian could be in trouble. In goes Flandre. Here comes the ball from Doinb to protect his jungler and keep him safe.
Yeah, and we do see a bit of selflessness coming out from Flandre with that one, right? Because this allowed for Nuguri to push in the wave and get the bounce, as we do see here. But EDG members might look to catch Nuguri off. Doesn't have flash.
Oh, Jiejie moves in through the river here. Nuguri, as you said, no flash. Halfway towards Mega Gnar, but I don't think he'll ever see the day that he turns Mega. Culling coming into the brush here. Sonic Wave still available, but they leave the kill for Scout to grab his hat trick.
And that's now, as you say, 3 kills for this Ryze. He'll have so many more opportunities to push and shove because of the big advantages he's got in that mid lane. And when you start to look at like the 4 assists for Viper in that bottom lane, he's looking to scale. Flandre now getting a lot of attention. The big members of EDG are really getting that ball rolling.
Yeah, we've seen EDG just being the team more willing to, again, leave lanes, look for these picks across sides of the map, not caring too much about farm, but again, that's what their draft calls for. I like what FPX do here in response. They go for this mid lane play with Herald, but EDG are here.
They go for a dive as well. Tower's still going. It finally falls. They answer with a jungler kill here. And EDG, they've got the numbers advantage. They could search for more. Doinb alongside Chris, trying to survive, but just getting chased down. Glacial Fissure to keep them alive. The rocket goes wide, but it will be Junja. 1 HP does go down. Crisp somehow evens the kills. Jungler for jungler and a tower for FPX.
And a gorgeous play coming through, managing to get at least a little bit back there. And now you can see Viper tried to move up, but he wasn't in position. They may look for more, though.
Meiko wants to go aggressive, but it's Lwx that's turning this one out straight on towards the enemy support. Meiko falls, and Viper cannot set it up for his teammate that's TP.
Yeah, really nice play coming out from Lwx. Just goes, hey, I got the Gravita. Moonlight Vigil goes down. They're able to lock numerous members down. Also the Severum, so actually the Burst's gun coming out from the side of Lwx, and nice to see them get something back in the bot lane.
And this is kind of crazy to see, right? We said Lwx and Chris weren't going to be that dominant bot lane here. It's Viper and Meiko who have been those top performers, coming out with the biggest goal difference of every AD carry in this, out of the split, but they're actually falling behind.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think how both teams have adapted to each other, right? Because you see EDG now going for this mid-jungle support play style to where FPX have been more happy to look for some of these 2v2 plays. And again, I feel like it's just them catching out EDG's bot lane off guard. So easy for them to throw out the Moonlight Vigil onto Meiko doesn't have flash.
Lwx deserves an Oscar for that play. He looked so much like he was trying to background. He's like, haha, surprise Moonlight Vigil. And also, in game number 1, it was Lwx and Crisp that were winning that 2v2. They almost got that kill onto Viper in game number 1. Now finding a 2v2 in game number 2. It feels like the dynamic of this game is so different to what we've seen from either team earlier on in the split and in play.
Yeah, and it just shows, again, a level of like experience coming out from both sides. I mean, FPX, 5 world champions, you've heard it so many times before. Even looking at EDG, though, members like Scout and Meiko, so much experience under their belt, they will be able to pick up this Dragon now, and it doesn't look like FPX are really in any position to contest.
No, this will be an EDG Dragon. I just want to quickly hit on that point of veterancy because we've got Meiko on the Rift today, playing his signature Thresh. Remember, this is the last remaining member of that EDG roster that won the first ever international event for the LPL.
Even going for that with Meiko, right? We saw Hanwha recently qualifying for Worlds Deft coming out in an interview saying, hey, I'd love to play against Meiko. I'd love to play against my own team. You know, it's going to be so cool seeing that reunion, but especially if Meiko and the rest of EDG can keep up this form. Right now, not too far ahead, though.
See who could be sneakier than the other. Tian coming in behind the team. Flandre just lathers in with some gun light.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried. Tian not very sneaky, just kind of wandering through. And I was watching the bot lane from EDG move up as well, seeing if maybe we would get some crazy action. But it does feel like EDG right now, when we're looking at that Rift Herald about to spawn in just under a minute, that they're the ones in full control. And I love that they're starting to move around the map. Get these side lanes under control with Flandre and Scout.
Scout
have those
is so
things.
scary. With 15 minutes, Scout is a full item plus boots. He can one-shot waves already.
I do want to say, though, right, when we're looking in terms of gold, EDG not really having any sort of advantage. For FPX, I think they're fine in this position, right? He goes for it. Sadly, not able to find it onto Flandre, but FPX, despite that they do have this more scaling composition, still willing to look for these fights. But it's still nice if FPX do tone it down a bit, right? You don't have to contest every Herald, every Dragon. You're even in gold. You have the Orianna, you have the Aphelios. You do outrange people like Flandre if he's not using culling, like Scout on the Ryze, and you have opportunities to find these team fights later on, especially now that we're starting to see items come out for the side of FPX.
And I think it's worth like revisiting that conversation of scaling, right? Because we're talking about how FPX have a lot of scaling with the Orianna, the Aphelios, right? It's not like EDG's composition doesn't have scaling. They've got a Jinx, they've got a Ryze, both of these known for their insane late games. It's just trying to get in range for that in the late game is going to be difficult.
I feel like the big thing is just that they want to play out the composition differently. While me and Dagda were watching draft, while the analyst desk was going over it, the big thing about EDG's composition is it does have things like side lane pressure. You do have the ability to use realm warps to make these trickier plays. So I definitely feel like EDG have the tools. For FPX, it is just more straightforward. It's just like, hey, we want you in front of us. We want the front-to-back 5v5.
Yeah, and it feels like if you ever mess up as EDG, right, there's so much there to punish you. Like, if you ever misstep as Viper, you're in a lot of trouble. Same with Scout. Now, I will say Viper's been pretty damn good at not misstepping throughout the course of the split.
He's been okay. Yeah, he's been reasonable.
And he even has the Gale Force there to try and help him with those repositioning moments. But I still think, like, if you end up in a situation where you go crazy late, just Viper being able to pump out this damage from such long range is really what you're going to have to come to grips with for him.
I just want to mention as well, you talked about how Deft is going to be at Worlds. Maybe we get the Deft and Meiko reunion. Well, there's a lot of comparisons to be made between Viper and Deft. Here we go, Rocket coming across the map. It's just going to go wide. The Observer's baited us a little bit there. Lwx will clear away the way. Flandre making a good effort on that bottom side.
Yeah, really nice seeing the combo try and come out from the side of EDG. I also like what they're doing right now, right? This is what you want to do. Play through your Lucian lane that can get the push, try and walk into the enemy jungle, get some aggressive wards down. They were also able to use the Rift Herald that they picked up to get mid, and then just transfer that mid pressure back down to bot, make sure Flandre can get that turret to where FPX just have to answer on the opposite side of the map.
And they're not even doing that right now, right? Scout did back away in case there was any sort of play, but he's actually defending this top lane turret at the same time, so you're not even getting FPX making these cross-map plays at the moment.
I thought that plays were pretty good.
Yeah, sorry. You know what, I'm just so angry
hang on,
now.
we've got a 1v1 on the top side as Scout finds Nuguri and obliterates. Where did he go?
Man, what an absolute monster performance coming out from Scout. A lot of people haven't been talking about Scout recently, right? It was about Doinb, it was about Knight, it was about Fofo.
We literally said it at the start. We said how Scout's had a great split, but he's been overshadowed by Doinb, not in this series.
And I came into playoffs, like, EDG, a little bit of a rocky start. They drop into the lower bracket. I was like, all right, we're getting EDG in playoffs. What is this from Scout? Scout managing to just one-shot Nuguri, getting the double CC coming through with the Everfrost, and Nuguri's gone.
Yeah, we were already hitting on right. He's been up in gold, sitting on more items than his opposition, and just having so much damage. I mean, Ryze has always been like that, right? You are just like this machine gun of DPS, able to burst people out. And for EDG, it's going to continue to be pushing out those sides and playing around that. For FPX, though, I feel like as long as the game of the tempo stays about this, right, you're still only about 1k gold down. It isn't too bad. It's about EDG pushing the pace.
Scout is about to finish his Seraphs. He's about to have a fully stacked Seraphs.
There it is.
15 minutes in. That is madness. Doinb at least will find a tower on the top side, but look at the minimap. Look what's happening down at this tier 2. Meiko looking for Nuguri. That was just by a cat's whisper going wide.
There is nobody on this top side, though, so we're actually going to get potentially a trade of turrets here. So when you're FPX and you're in this kind of position, actually being able to trade is pretty damn good as they bait out the realm warp.
Oh, Rocket again. Viper hasn't hit a single Rocket just yet this game, but we'll let him off because they're taking over the map in other ways. 2 tier 2s taken by EDG. It's in trade for the tier 2 up at the top side in favor of FPX. And now Drake spawning as well. This will be the second on the scoreboard for EDG.
I also want to highlight, I really did like that creative play coming out from Scout with the Realm Warp, right? Putting it there, making them think they're going to come to try and tunnel them up further in the lane towards their side of the map. Still weren't able to find anything, but nice use coming out. It still does keep EDG's possession of bot side control. So they are going to be able to get this next Drake. And even later on, right? That's what you're going to be looking at. Getting this, hopefully, Ocean Soul on their side, and then having ways to take fights, especially when, like, sure, Orianna and Aphelios do outrange your carries like Lucian and Ryze, but again, that Lucian culling is going to be extremely massive. You can combo that culling into something like a Jinx rocket, instantly take out one member of the fight. We have seen things like the Realm Warp used to close distance, so there are a lot of interesting ways there.
And if you even make that one pick, think about how quickly EDG can take things like Baron, or you even get out of position as FPX. Like, you have so many opportunities to turn and just burst that objective down. So for FPX, you really need to be aware of exactly where EDG are. Make sure you're not going into blind check and you're keeping this kind of push and pull style where you're getting vision control.
That's the thing, right? I feel like for FPX, the name of the game is like defensive vision. You're fine. You ideally, I think, would like to contest the next Drake that comes up. It looks like Lwx pretty close to getting his next item and what you would assume would be the Collector. And then maybe you could start going for fights. For FPX, it actually probably wouldn't be doomed if you even waited beyond that. I really feel like the play is just get defensive wards. Don't let any sneaky plays come out with TPs or Realm Warps. Make sure you are safely farming your jungle camps, and then contest when you are on those big item spikes for Aphelios, like the 3-item mark.
See if they're going to be able to just bide their time and wait this one out. Right now, it's feeling good for EDG, though, and that's the second time we're saying that in this series. It's the second time that EDG comes beyond the 20-minute mark with a lead in this mid-game, and honestly, when you're looking across the board at the items that EDG have, it feels like they can pull the trigger really fast on these fights. You've got that Shirelius battle song to engage, you've got Gale Forces, you've got an Everfrost to lock people down as well. It feels like there's a lot of potential for EDG to pull the trigger.
There 100% is, and that's why I feel like FPX needs to be, well, actually might need to be careful
Hang on.
here. Yeah.
FPX are going to be in trouble right now. We've got EDG members on all sides. Doinb knows it, though. He's trying to scout things out with his ball. Scout underneath the play, Flandre on top. The two solo laners trying to find a window, but Tian happy to walk up and face check. It's going to diffuse the play, at least for the time being, but Scout's still on this flank.
Still going to be looking for it. That's the Moonlight Vigil gun. What FPX are trying to fight this?
Scout is going to move in here. Has to be cautious. He can't go in on his own. He may be strong, but he is still a Ryze at the end of the day.
So the big thing for me was I wanted to see FPX more looking for picks, not just trying to outright go for this play. It feels like if you're contesting when EDG are trying to look for vision, you can pick off all these relatively squishy characters, but that's not what we're getting.
Very similar to Game 1, right?
Yeah.
What we saw from FPX across all of Game 1 was group up as a 5, try and win in a straight-up 5v5.
Uh-oh.
But that's not what we're seeing right here as Crisp force away. The rocket going to be blocked. Crisp will survive the Glacial Fissure, also gets a knock-up. Here comes Scout from the back line, trying to find the flank. Meiko goes down. Crisp surviving, finally falls, but it's 2 for Lwx already, and he wants to be the carry that nobody believed in. It's 4-3 in the numbers game, and FPX have control of the Baron pit.
And that was just all over the place, right? FPX did have a slight numbers advantage. The fact that Scout wasn't there, and he's the massive member on the side of EDG, I feel like was such a big factor in that fight. But going back to what you were saying before, I actually feel like FPX have been doing a good job in terms of staying turtled, staying as this death ball composition, never letting there be stragglers, insides, and walking into the enemy jungle, which Crisp almost did right there, as we're gonna see here, Dagda.
Yeah, nearly goes down. I'm shocked that he stayed alive after this play. Even you can see Tian, another block onto the Viper ult that was coming across, but it does give FPX that time that you were talking about here. You don't have Scout here. He spends half his time trying to chase Crisp back into this fight, and Lwx is able to pick up 2.
Yeah.
Scout wants to hide. He won't find it, never mind.
I was gonna say the big thing in my it's just too.
This has been a high-paced game.
Exactly.
I'm on my toes.
There have been too many kills so far in only 2 games, but even going back to that play, a big thing was with both Meiko and Flandre trying to play so aggressively because they thought they'd gotten Crisp, they both zoned themselves off from their team in different ways.
Yeah.
So FPX can just be like, okay, we turn on to Meiko here and get this 1 kill, and then turn up towards the top and kill Flandre.
And I will say props to Viper towards the end of that fight. Might have been Viper, might have been Flandre, who Doinb tried to get a shockwave. If that had pulled that 1 extra player in, that could have been a Baron opportunity for FPX. So really good fancy footwork to be able to stay alive.
We're seeing a very similar story to game number 1 though, right? EDG get these advantages, start to get control of the map, and then FPX find these 1 or 2 plays that are starting to creep in and punishing EDG's mistakes. EDG now need to right the ship and make sure they're continuing to get control of this map and playing through where they're strong with Scout.
I feel like a big thing for EDG as well is being able to take flashes off FPX because they are reliant on immobile carries. Both teams kind of posturing right now like they want to go for this. Dragon is up in 10 seconds, and FPX have control of bot side river.
And it will be an Ocean Soul as well. Importantly, such a crucial one to fight for as EDG toying with the idea of face checking, but they're just going to realm up straight at the Baron. EDG calling FPX's bluff. They're just going to burn this one down. They have a Jinx and a Ryze. They take this so damn fast, down to 4,000 already. They're just going to look for the burst. In comes the hook. Baron down to 2,000, and now the fight instead. The shockwave coming on through in a second. They're looking for an opportunity here. Tian playing this one safe. Baron will reset. FPX actually going onto the Baron themselves. There's the shockwave straight onto Flandre. Shuts him out of the fight. Lwx caught up, and Scout takes over. The rune's coming up strong, and now EDG in control of the fight. Doinb flashed upon as Scout gets the triple, gets the quadra, and gets EDG the Baron.
Scout is a monster! How do you manage to bring that back? That Everfrost, that lockup, that AoE damage just turned that fight around.
But not only the mechanics and the solid team fighting coming out from EDG, the decision making. They're like, hey, we can't face check into bottom side river, realm warp straight to the Baron. Both teams honestly almost got a bit baited, but in the end, Scout is the hero of the day.
Scout made it to Worlds with EDG on his first ever split on the organization. It has been years since he made it. He has been faithful to EDG, and his faith is being being rewarded.
And this is where I was a bit scared in this fight, right? Because you can see Jiejie wanted to stick on the Baron for a little bit too long. It did get low enough to where they thought they could burn. Then FPX on the opposite side, Tian going straight in. Sure, you're able to get Flandre, but you set up for such a great angle from Scout on the side to just delete 2 members. Look at Nuguri, he's not even Mega Gnar, so he's not able to put anything forward. And Scout just continuing to be aggressive, looks for the flash, and EDG take everything.
That was dirty. That was just so dirty. I like that we're getting the double the time too. They're like, you know what, lads, just run it back. Let's just run it back.
You love to see it, and just Scout's mechanics in these fights. He has to play so cautiously because remember, Scout, he's on that Ryze. If he ever gets caught, he's doomed. But the Everfrost is just, it's too beautiful to witness. Then obviously flashes on Doinb to finish the fight off.
The big thing as well for me is the fact that all of FPX's members funneled up towards the top side of that Baron pit, leaving the members that Scout was able to jump on just vulnerable to him being like, hey, well, I'm not being zoned out. I'm just going to walk forward. I'm going to be able to get all this damage down to you. And what can you do?
Especially as your consistent damage dealer is Lwx, right? He goes, that's kind of the fight done and dusted. Even if you get these massive shockwaves.
It's death cap, boys. It's death cap.
He's 9-0-4. He has 100% kill participation this game. This is the Scout show. Everyone was saying Doinb was the best mid in the world. I think Scout's got something to say about that statement. There's now a siege onto the top lane tier 2. EDG, I don't think they could be contested here. FPX want to try and fight for this one, but if it goes anything like the last, it's not going to look good for FPX.
And if you pay attention to the minimap as well, EDG are playing out through multiple lanes. Scout is pushing in that mid lane, so FPX will have to send members over there and leave this window for EDG to keep sieging top turret.
And you have to be careful as well, because while we're gushing over Scout, he actually did manage to take that bottom inhibitor turret as well. So you've got that vulnerable lane if you just end up moving Scout over too. So you've got multiple different fronts you can play this through as EDG.
Yeah, and they're just going to keep going, right? They still have this Baron available. They have the Jinx here, so they should be able to see just one down. Leave Scout mid, get that pushed into inhibitor turret. So, again, FPX will be spread apart.
Look at the build for Jiejie. He's gone second item GA. He knows that he is the engage tool. He's just got to find a way in. He's willing to trade that GA to set his carries up. And Viper, we haven't talked about him all game. He's still on that Jinx. He's still stacking these items up. And if Scout can set those pins up, one rocket will knock them all down.
That's the thing, right? Viper is just this giant artillery turret. He sat there in the back dealing all the damage. Isn't going to make any flashy plays. Actually, 0-0 and 10, which is pretty funny. But for EDG, they're playing out the macro of this late game pretty well so far. Again, just continuously rotating from lane to lane.
And I mean, this is incredible from EDG. The fact that they are, like, coming in this strong as the hook on Tian early lands.
It's going to be a zap onto Tian, and it will keep him away. Realm Warp just to try and bait them as the play goes towards the mid lane from EDG. 2 towers taken down. Inhib's open, but not taken just yet.
I feel like that the sad thing for FPX here is right there, if you would have had more engage in your composition, that would be your window to all in on that mid lane player, all in on bot, right? Because that's what you need to do as FPX. Give up pressure somewhere to all in on one of the places with less members in you. If you look at their composition, just not really any engage to force a play like that.
I mean, the last time we saw EDG in finals was in 2018 against RNG. The last time these guys won a championship was in 2017. And the fact that they are coming in against FPX, the guys so many people predicted a 3-0 against EDG, and they're doing this is insane.
It's absolutely mad to think about. And something Dom mentioned on the desk, right, is FPX have been here before. FPX were able to win that first round of the upper bracket semifinal and then lose in the grand final later on. Could be a bit of a mental game, even going forward after this for FPX. I'm like, oh my god, guys, oh my god, what do we do? We couldn't figure this out last time.
It goes even deeper than that, right? Because in spring, it was RNG back after a dip, one of these historic veteran teams that has won multiple titles. Now in summer, they're against EDG, another historic team that has won the most titles out of anyone in the LPL, and they're being gate-kept again.
I don't even know if we should be surprised at this stage. I mean, we've had 2 simultaneous miracle runs in our playoffs.
Yeah.
Now we're getting EDG. This was the story the whole time. The upsets have been there in front of our eyes.
I feel like the big thing for EDG as well, right? They're just playing so immaculately. And right now, what they're doing, because they're on soul point, right? They're just waiting for this dragon to come up. They're trying to bait FPX members into the enemy jungle to try and find those picks with a death sentence. And they're not looking for any like cheeky, maybe 1-3-1 plays or 1-4 plays, even though they do have side laners with teleport.
And this is what we know from EDG, right? Playing super safe, but with Ocean Drake coming up in 30 seconds time, They have control of the river. There is no destiny this time. There is no special vision tools for FPX to find a way in. A Scout is up on the top side of the play here. FPX trying to move forwards, but they could be in trouble. Look at the damage out from Scout. Straight on towards Nuguri, who has to just retreat here. Tian's gone too deep. He's 1v4 in the back line. It's going to be a Moonlight Vigil to try and keep him safe, but they just don't have the damage. FPX forced away. More kills for EDG as they take over the finals. Doinb gets a consolation prize, but that's all he'll find as Scout chases him through the jungle, and the rest of EDG, they're looking for the home run.
And EDG can just clean this up. They can push down the base. We actually live in a reality where EDG, coming in massive underdogs, gonna be 2-0 up in this final.
This is an unbelievable, unprecedented performance from EDG. They're gonna blow this base open. They're looking for bonus kills as they look to reinstate their legacy. The Nexus will fall. EDG are 2-0 over FPX.
This is a phenomenal performance from EDG. How they have come in, completely rewritten the script with their drafts, with their plays, and Scout.
Look how calm they are,
has been
too.
insane this entire game. And now you're sitting one game away from shutting FPX out and taking the Summer Championship.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see it again. I feel like that also shows like a wealth of experience on certain players from EDG. Seeing them walk off stage, they look so cool and collected, like nothing just happened in terms of them being so far up in this series. I even know from talking to, again, some experts on the Chinese side, talking to people around the teams, that EDG maybe not coming with the highest confidence. FPX maybe thinking this was feeling good, a bit of a lock, but we're seeing that complete opposite here today.
I think you've been baited, mate. I think that information was all a good
It was Teddy.
Well, I mean, Teddy's not exactly been the best at predicting what's going to happen. Let's be real here. I mean, expectations have been blown out of the water so far today. 2-0 now in favor of EDG, and FPX, within this space of like an hour and a half, have gone from favorite to backed against the ropes, just fighting to survive.
I feel like a big thing for me just about this series so far is just, again, EDG drafting so much proactivity. They're the ones wanting to find the early foothold. They've been able to do it. FPX have been the team trying to fall back in terms of like more scaling or more team fighting, and EDG just haven't given them the breathing room.
But it's also just how active they have been, right? Like, we haven't seen Meiko move so much from that bottom side all split long. He's been consistently mid lane, helping to get Scout ahead. We're seeing Scout get these roams up towards Flandre in the top lane. Like, it has been EDG being the ones making the moves when we expect that to be FPX.
And I think the most exciting part about that to me is that the two players that are standing out as two of the best players and two of the most proactive players for EDG are the two veterans, right? Scout and Meiko, both really showing themselves, but also Jiejie in that jungle, right? He was one of the players that has been criticized massively across the year. We saw him getting subbed out in recent series. Like, he's not had an easy sailing year, right? And now in the final.
It just blows my mind that here we are, you know, breaking down the series, and you know the one name we're not mentioning is the one name you always think of when you think of EDG wins. Viper, again, playing, you know, fine, doing his job, doing great damage, like amazing Viper performances always, but EDG have realized, hey, to beat a team like FPX, it doesn't lay on Viper, it lays on the rest of the members.
Have to become the FPX channel, the FPX, but hey, they're doing it with style, and I do agree. I mean, look, Viper, it's not that he has been like bad at all. He's been great. It's just a case of like shown as all. Yeah. So I think it's been really incredible as well to see kind of how well Scout has been able to control that mid lane against Doom. Because one of the big things we had, like when we were talking about draft last night, was like, what do you go for a Scout? It feels like everywhere you try and wiggle and move, Doomby has an answer. Well, Doomby hasn't had an answer this entire series. It has been the Scout show, and now going into game number 3, you're kind of shaking your head as FPX going, well, lads, we're the ones with the Doom draft. We're the ones that don't really feel like we have an answer here.
I feel like this is where, again, we need to see something more aggressive, more early game prio coming out from the side of FPX, especially around that mid lane. And that leaves the question to me, do we get to see the Kled? Is it Kled time? Backs are against the wall. Is it time for the signature pick?
Is it time for the dark technologies to come on through? We'll have to wait and see as the series continues. But so far, EDG certainly throwing a spanner in the wrench. A spanner in the wrench? A spanner in the works for the side of FPX. And I think FPX now having to go back to the drawing board. We'll see what they're going to come out with. We'll see if the dark technologies can come forward once again. We're going to jump into a break, and then we're going to go to Game 3